Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham
Dumba Jumden de Jen Jingwa Tajumba Yandava Zobe Sanje Rigwa Dan Shabso Temba Tewara Shegwa Jigden Jemba Jebon Dube Kalo Jurwa Lana Meva Lada Menamje Tumba Sanje Jumden de Bejawa Jaja Dobala Chazelo Jodo Jazo Chewo Dumba Jumden de Jejaba Tajumba Yandava Zobe Sanje Rigwa Dan Shabsu Temba Devara Shegwa Jiden Jemba Jebu Dube Kalo Jurwa Lana Meba Lada Menamje Tumba Sanje Jumden de Pejawa Shaja Duba La Jazelo Jodo Jazo Che Ho Dumba Jumden de Jen Sheba Tajumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Shikba Dan Shabzo Temba Devara Sheba Jigden Jemba Jebo Dube Galo Jurva Lana Meba Lada Menamje Dumba Sanje Jumden de Pejawa Shaja Duba La Jazelo Chudu Jazu Je O Sanje Chudan Soje Chonama La Chanju Bado Tane Jazu Je Dagi Chushe Jibe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Dubara Sho Sanje Chudan Soje Chonama La Changju Bado Dane Jamso Che Tage Chushe Jibe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Dubara Sho Sanje Chudan Soje Chonama La Changju Bado Dane Jamso Che Tagi Chushe Jibe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Dubara Sho Good morning. How have you been for the last 2 weeks? I hope everyone is well. And most importantly, how is it going in terms of practicing this conscientiousness? Have you tried? Did it make a difference? It's supposed to make a difference. Anyway, let's dive into the text. So first I wanted to explain a little bit more on what conscientiousness. Forgive me if I am pronouncing it incorrectly. I'm having difficulty pronouncing this word. So in Tibetan, it's called Pagyu. So I mentioned earlier whether the term conscientiousness, whether that term captures the meaning of the Tibetan word Pagyu accurately or not. I did try to explain in our first class, but let me just use another verse from Shantideva to explain what Pagyu really means. So here, this is one stanza that is normally used to explain what Pagyu is or what conscientiousness is. So here it says, those who practice should be as attentive as frightened man carrying a jar full of mustard oil who is being threatened by someone with a sword that he will be killed if he spills just one drop. So this kind of paints the scene. So you have this person who is ordered to carry a jar. In the picture, you see how the Indians carry water on their head. So imagine that, a person is ordered to carry a jar filled to the brim with oil. And then he is being followed by a guard with a sword. And he was very clearly told that if he spills even a drop, that sword will come down on him. So if we were in that situation, how careful we would be, how attentive we would be on to our environment, especially the path. Whether you are walking on a piece of rock, or whether it's a flat piece, whether there is a pothole, anything, you will be so careful. You will take every precaution to not to spill that water, that oil, because you know the consequences. So that's what it means. Being very attentive, being very careful, always ready to take the right action. If you see that you are engaging in negative actions, you are ever ready to stir it towards the virtuous one. So I think it is a common fact for those who are in Minnesota. We have this slippery road, this frozen road, icy road during the winter time. If we come to that part of the road where the road is so icy, how would we drive? Our attention would be fully on driving. We will give our undivided attention and concentration on driving. We will make sure that we are doing the right thing. We will make sure that our foot is on the pedal, brake pedal, ready to brake as and when it requires. And also our hands are firmly on the steering, both our hands, not just one hand, ready to steer away from any obstacles. So that kind of attitude, that kind of attention, that kind of precaution is what is meant by Pakyu. His Holiness describes Pakyu as a sense of being careful and attentive. So that's what it means. So when I use the word conscientiousness, whatever the definition of the word conscientiousness, make sure that you get that understanding, that meaning. So that's what it means here. And this makes sense, doesn't it? We can understand now that whether we are able to pursue the Bodhisattva practices successfully or not is completely dependent on whether we are able to have this mindset, the Pakyu. If we have Pakyu all the time, we will never deter. We will never sidetrack from the Bodhisattva paths. When we fail to have that, when we become reckless, I think reckless is kind of opposite to Pakyu. When we are careless, when we lose our concentration and attention, then there is danger of sidetracking. There is a danger of engaging in actions that are contrary to the Bodhisattva paths and the precepts entailing to Bodhisattva vows. So that's why this is so important. So important. If we are able to adopt this kind of mindfulness mental state, it's not really mindfulness. Mindfulness is just remembering. So these works together. You need to have the Pakyu, and then you need to have the Tenpa, is the mindfulness, where you remember, you remind yourself that, oh, I have to be careful, I have to be careful. And then you have this called the Shishin, introspective awareness, where you constantly watch your action. You constantly spy on your thoughts and your action. Am I being careful or not? Am I engaging in negative actions? Are my actions contrary to the Bodhisattva precepts, Bodhisattva vows? Am I following the proper practices? Am I violating any of the vows? So that's introspective awareness. So these three work together. But most important is the Pakyu. With the Pakyu, so you are always attentive to your thoughts and your actions. So that's what it means. So with that, now let's go to the next one. So up until here, Shantideva is using this way for us, a way to deter what. Let me rephrase. Shantideva is using various methods to deter us from engaging in negative actions. Or Shantideva is using various means for us to remain on the Bodhisattva paths. So the first one is using the precepts. Since we have taken the Bodhisattva vows, we have to train into these particular precepts. And if we fail to do that, there are consequences. So reminding us of the consequences, Shantideva is trying to make us being more conscientious. So I think this works fine, isn't it? It's very effective. If we foresee the consequences, that helps in our action. Why we don't go to the shops and steal things? Especially when we go to a mall and we go window shopping, we see all kinds of nice things. There are so many things that we want, we would love to have. And many of these places, they are not really guarded. You can just take. But we don't do that because we know the consequences. We know that if we do that, if we steal things from shops, we will be jailed. If we start killing people because you don't like that person, we know that we will end up in jail, in prison. We will suffer. Because of the consequences, we are deterred from engaging in these actions. So here is the same way. Shantideva is saying this, if you don't do this, there are consequences and you will suffer. So therefore, if you don't want to suffer the consequences, you should adopt conscientiousness. It's simple. So for the past 10 stanzas, and also this one, is mainly reminding us of our precepts, the vows we have taken, what we have committed to do, what we have pledged to do, and therefore we cannot go against our commitment. We cannot go against or we cannot disavow our promise. Otherwise, there are ramifications. So now let's turn to verse number 11. Tedar tunga topdenda chanju semdop tembata kowa regi dechena sato pala yuring talks. So this one is now talking about if we violate, if we transgress our vows, there are consequences. One of the consequences is that it will delay our realization and attainment. It will delay us in reaching enlightenment or Buddhahood. So it says, thus, those who have the force of an awakening mind, as well as the force of falling from it, stay revolving within cyclic existence and for a long time are hindered in reaching the Bodhisattva levels. Remember, in the earlier parts we talked about the consequences, that you will be born in lower realms and or you will undergo all kinds of sufferings. And then the argument is that, but even if we violate or even we transgress the Bodhisattva vows, he said that even if we forsake bodhicitta, we can still retake it. We can do purify. We can do purification practice. So if you say that, oh, it's still okay to break vows, this is what he's saying. Yes, you can retake the vows. Yes, you can engage in purification practices, but it still delays our practice. It says, thus those who have the force of an awakening mind as well as the force of falling from it, stay revolved. So these two things alternates. When you take the Bodhisattva vows and when you are keeping it intact, there is merit. The result of keeping the Bodhisattva vows and following the precepts will end up in good rebirth. But when you break that, there is consequences. That will lead to lower realms. Once you are in lower realm, it takes long time. So it is like taking 2 steps forward and then taking another 3 steps backward. So if we do that, we will never arrive at a destination. Isn't it? And another analogy they have given is very practical. It says that when we break our arms or our legs, is that it can be fixed. But because it can be fixed, you don't want to break it all the time. That is not a good reason to break your arms. Or I can break my arms because it can be fixed. But a broken arm which is once fixed compared with unbroken arm, if you compare between the two, I think the unbroken arm is always stronger. So that's the Shantideva's argument. Yes, we can do purification. But because we break that, then we will delay this process. So here when in Tibet, I don't know whether it is in the English itself, it says, Tedar Tunga Topdenda Chanju Semdop Temba Ta Kowa Regi Drechena Satopala Urine Satopala Sa Rabdu Gawa, the first Bhumi. It says it will delay in achieving the Bodhisattva's Bhumi, the first Bhumi. So directly or explicitly it says that it will delay reaching the first Bhumi. But indirectly it's saying that it will delay. If it can delay reaching Bodhisattva, the first Bodhisattva Bhumi, then imagine how much a delay it will cause to reach beyond 10 Bhumi. The Buddhahood is beyond 10 Bhumi, beyond the 10 Bhumi. So as I mentioned earlier, it's about taking 2 steps forward and then walking back 3 steps. So you will never arrive there. It will take a long time, even if you get there. And during that time, we will undergo so much suffering. So for that reason, we should try not to break our vows. We should try not to forsake the bodhicitta. And what will help us to do that? To have the conscientiousness. Therefore, so it says, 대대 제대로 담제신 다기 구버 두버차 탱내 좀버 마제나 원내 와도 줘봐 줘르스. So because of that a reason mentioned in the 11th verse 11, so therefore, just as I have promised, shall I respectfully accord my actions. If from now on I make no effort, I shall descend from lower to lower states. So he's saying, therefore, I should persevere in the practice, in the training. Engaging in the Bodhisattva paths and practices is not easy. There are a lot of challenges. But he said that we need to bring in the perseverance. We need to bring in that, steadfastness. We need to bring in the perseverance. We need to endure the hardship. So therefore, just as I promised, when we took the Bodhisattva vows, we have made the promises. So with the help of perseverance, I shall respectfully accord my actions to the promise that I made, the pledge that I made. And what happens if I don't do that? If I don't do that, if I don't conscientiously put effort in keeping my vows, what will happen is that I shall descend from lower to lower states. First, because we are breaking our vows, breaking our promises, we are deceiving infinite number of sentient beings. Then, because we are not following the Bodhisattva vows, we reviewed each and every vows involved, and we know that if we really follow through, it seems like there's no way we will be committing negative actions. It is all about guiding us to do the right thing, to do the virtuous things. But when we are no longer binded by the vow, we will become kind of relaxed, we will become reckless, and then we will engage and commit all kinds of negativities which we cannot escape. We have to experience the result, and which will be unfavorable states of existence, the suffering state of existence. So that's the reason we need to follow, we need to train in the precepts. Simjin tamje penzebe sanje tamen de jurjang tani rangi nyebe te sowe chuyu manjur tos. So then we say that, even if I fall down into the lower realms, it is okay. There are Buddhas to help me. Buddhas will come to save me and liberate me from those existence. To refute that, Shantideva says, although for the benefit of every creature, countless Buddhas have passed by, yet I have not come into the domain of their cure because of my own mistakes. Yes, Shandita was saying that, yes, you are right. Buddhas, in the past, Buddhas have come, and in the future, Buddhas will come. And Buddhas are compassionate. Their main goal is to liberate us. But it says, although for the benefit of every creature, countless Buddhas have passed by. Many Buddhas have passed. Many Buddhas have come and gone. But we are still here in samsara. And there are countless beings in the lower realms. Even we look in this very world, if we don't want to look at other realms, but in this human world, we see how many people are undergoing suffering. So much pain and suffering. It doesn't mean that Buddhas have no compassion. It doesn't mean that Buddhas are not trying. But Buddhas cannot help unless we create the cause. Remember I told you this story. There was this story about a guy who prayed to God. This is coming from a Christian story. Prayed to God to win a lottery. And he never won a lottery. And then he died. But fortunately, he was born in heaven. So the first thing he asked the God, I'm saying the God, yeah, this is story, God, is there, why didn't you help me win the lottery? So the God said that, I wanted to help, but you must buy the lottery ticket first. If you don't buy the lottery ticket, there's nothing I can do. So likewise, many Buddhas have come and gone. But unless we are able to create that hook, unless we are able to latch onto the Buddha's compassionate hook, there's nothing Buddha can do. Tani rangi nyebe de sowe juyu manjurdos. The analogy is given like a terminally ill person. So if a person is suffering from, let's say, fourth stage cancer, the greatest surgeon, the best doctor in the world cannot help. It is beyond health. There is no way. So it says, yet I have not come into the domain of their cure. No doctor can cure us unless we do something about it. We have already passed that. Another way to look at it is like, if we want to be cured, if we want to be healed, we need to follow the instructions given by the doctor. We need to abide by the advices given by the doctor. If we don't do that, it is less likely that we will recover. I think I told you this story. So in monastery, many monks have this hepatitis B. So when my sister was doing her nursing course in a hospital, so monks come for checkup, and then because there are Tibetan students there, they seek their help for helping them with a translation, because many monks, they don't speak Hindi language. So my sister was telling me that one time she accompanied a monk from Ganden monastery, and he had hepatitis B, and then after doing all the necessary examinations. So doctor prescribes some pills, and the advice is that stay away from oily foods, fatty foods. So what happened? After they finished all the examination, they went for breakfast. They haven't had the time to eat breakfast, so they went to a restaurant. And what the monk's order was? He ordered this puri. Puri is a deep-fried roti. So my sister pointed out to him that, Genla, you cannot eat this. That's what doctor said. And he said, oh, once in a while it is okay. But unfortunately, he came back to see doctor after 2-3 months later, and is already really bad. So he passed away. So we are like that monk. Buddhas have diagnosed our illness. You are suffering from this, the 3 poisons. You have these 3 poisons in your in your stream, bloodstream, whatever it is. So you need to tackle that. For this, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And here Shanti was saying that we need to adopt this conscientiousness. But do we follow? We don't. We don't. Only some days and, occasionally we take it seriously. Most of the time, we were so occupied with other unimportant things. So, if we don't follow the advice, there's no way Buddha can help us. So that's what it is saying. Yet I have not come into the domain of their cure because of my own mistakes, because I failed to follow the instructions. So even the Buddhas are willing to help us, they cannot. So you cannot make the argument that it is okay to break the vows, it is okay not to follow through the vows, it is okay to forsake the bodhicitta because Buddhas will help me. It says that no, cannot. So another analogy for that is the burned seeds. Hlayi gebe charbabjang sabyo mirung michungdar sanje namji chungjurjang geba mebe chungjurji geba mebe sangminyongs. So if we try to plant a burned seed, there is no potential to sprout anything, no matter how diligently you water the seed. Nothing will sprout because there's no potential. So it's like this, even though Buddha's compassion is always with us, but if we are unable to create the cause, there's nothing Buddha can do. Tadung tishin taa che na yangdang yangdong tishin de ngendrur nedang chiwadang chedang chingwadang chiwadang chedang shakso nyongwar gyururus. Then another argument is that yes, the past Buddhas, they came and they're gone, they have come and they're gone, they couldn't help us. But the future Buddhas, they are still, future Buddhas. They will come and rescue me. They will liberate me from the lower realms. So it is okay to forsake bodhicitta or to break the vows or not to train in the precepts. For that argument, Shantideva says, and if I continue to act like this, again and again shall I undergo suffering in unhappy realms, sickness, bondage, laceration, and the shedding of bloods. It says that it is same. It is not the Buddhas that, couldn't save us. It is us. It is our action. As long as we don't make changes, even if 1,000 Buddhas come in the future, they cannot help us. We will continue to be born in lower realms, even if we are not born in lower realms, and if we are able to achieve human rebirth, we will suffer. We will suffer from sicknesses, bondages, and we will be lacerated with a sword, and we have to go through all kinds of unimaginable suffering. So again, here it is saying that we need to rectify our action. At the moment, we are reckless. We fail to have this heedfulness, this carefulness with our actions. We are very relaxed in committing negative actions. We hardly put effort in doing virtue. So if we continue doing that, then the consequences will be the same as in the past. We will suffer. We will be born in lower realms. That's what Shantideva is saying. So this also highlights the importance of keeping the vows. So here in the sutra, there are many quotations. I will quote one. Dao Jumendo. Keba chewa kange chinyi du sanje tani chewa thakji la dukda marme tenwa tang seda kumgi desim chu chebe kange tambe chu di jikbe se dewara shekbe tenpa ngabwa na ninsha duni laba chik songwa tewe sunam dini kebar paaks. That's what it says. So you got it? So what it is saying that it is making a comparison between making offerings to countless Buddhas with all kinds of offerings. If we are able to make all kinds of offerings to an infinite number of Buddhas, imagine how meritorious that would be. By here it says that but what is more meritorious is that during this time, what we call degenerated time, where people are full of negativities, it is so difficult to generate virtue or a virtuous mind. During this kind of degenerated time, if one is able to keep even one precept, that is more meritorious than making thousands and thousands of offerings to thousands and thousands of Buddhas. So first of all, it is very meritorious to take vows and keep the vows. Secondly, he is saying that at this time, especially at this time, when people are not that interested in Dharma, people don't really value the Buddha Dharma, at that time period of time, if we are able to even keep one precept, one vow, it is so meritorious. So all this comes because Shantideva is using the precepts that we have, using the Bodhisattva vows that we have taken. So using that, Shantideva is advising us to train in the precepts with the means of conscientiousness. Tishin shekwa jungwa dang, dedang milu toba dang, kegum rungwa tetabu, kumba namshi tobar jurus. So now, remember the earlier verses, it says that Buddhas cannot help us unless we change our behavior, unless we change our conduct. So now here it says that even if we are born in lower realms, but there will be a time where I will be born again, human. I will achieve the precious human rebirth, and then at that time I can do better. You say you cannot say that, because if the arising of a Tathagata, faith, the attainment of a human body, and my being fit to cultivate virtue are scarce, when will they be won again? So yes, and you cannot argue that, because to achieve, to obtain precious human rebirth is so scarce, is so difficult, it is nearly impossible to achieve again. So here it specifically talks about the 10 endowments. Can you recall the 10 endowments which we discussed during on the topic of precious human rebirth? So here, 5 personal endowments and 5 endowments that pertain to others. Minyi uji ongbu chang leda malo nela te. Sanje chun dang tamju ten teji ju tenpa ne dang teji ju shenjir nying ne sewa wos. So being born as human, being born in a central, so it's more of a, let's say Buddha has come. So it says Tathagata, where is this one? If the arising of Tathagata, arising, the Buddha coming to this world is so rare. The analogy for this is what commonly used is what is called the Udumwara flower. Udumwara flower. The flower called Udumwara. So Udumwara is a tree that bears a flower every several thousand years. So this flower comes once in every 1,000 years. So here is saying that Buddha to come to our world is a very rare occasion. And then even Buddha comes. Some Buddhas don't teach. Buddhas come, but Buddhas go. And even some teach, they will teach only, only teach the Theravada teachings. They don't teach Mahayana. And then some teach Mahayana, but they don't teach Tantrayana. But we are so fortunate. We had the opportunity to meet Shakyamuni Buddha's Dharma, which has all these three aspects, the Theravada, the Mahayana, the Tantrayana. And then even Buddha has come and has taught, but sometimes the teachings don't last long. Like Shakyamuni's Buddhist teachings are supposed to last for 5,000 years, and we are already into 3,000 years. So only 2,000 more years left. And then sometimes teachings survive, but there are no practitioners, there are no followers. And then the feeling of compassion for others exists. This is when you want to do retreat, or when you want to practice. There are people who are willing to support you, people willing to provide resources. So in Tibet, many retreats and monasteries survive because of the people's generosity. People support monastic system. People happily offer the sustenance, food and clothing to those who are doing retreats. And many of the retreats are up in the mountain. So those who want to make offerings, they really have to carry all that and walk up to the cave. But there are many, we don't have any shortage. There are many people who are happy to do that. So this is what it means. So it is very hard to come by. It is hard to come even one of these factors, one of these conditions or circumstances, let alone all the 5 conditions, to meet all the 5 conditions. So you cannot say that, oh, it's okay to break vows, it's okay not to follow through, because even if I fall into the lower realms, and there will be a time where I can achieve human rebirth, and then at that time I can practice, I can do better. Is that it is very difficult. It is very difficult. So it says, if the arising of a Tathagata, faith, the attainment of a human body, and my being fit to cultivate virtue are scarce, when will they be won again? And human body, we have discussed this before. The core ingredient to achieve enlightenment is observing the ethical discipline. And for lay people, it is the 10 non-virtue, abstaining from 10 non-virtue. So ethical discipline of 10 non-virtues. But that is fully dependent on having this intention. Not engaging in does not constitute as observing the ethical discipline. The trees, the rocks, the houses, the cars, they don't engage in any of the 10 non-virtue. But because they don't have this intention, they don't get the merit. They are not considered abiding by this ethical discipline. So we need to have this conscious intention to abide by this and this and this. And I emphasized this before. So in the past 1 month, recall how many times you have intentionally decided to abide by these 10 non-virtue. I mentioned before that as a monk, when we took the vow, we took that, that decision, that promise, that vow at that time until our last day. So we don't need to take this kind of vow or make this motivation on daily basis. But for lay people, if you have not taken any vows, if you have taken the 5 lay vows, then it's different. But otherwise, you are not really following, you are not really observing the 10 ethical discipline in relation to the 10 non-virtue. So in that sense, where is the basis for us to achieve human rebirth? There's no ingredient. If we want to make pasta, the main ingredient is the pasta, isn't it? No matter what sauce you use, but you need the pasta. But if you don't have the pasta, forget about having a pasta meal. So this is serious. Neme nima didabu Neme nima didabu seje tsewa mekyang ni tseni kiji luwa de luni tangji nyambushins. Then another argument is that, okay, now I understand that, Buddhas cannot help me when I'm reborn in lower realms, and then, I cannot really rely on attaining human rebirth again to practice better. So since at the moment I have already obtained this birth, which is very difficult to obtain. So since I already have this, isn't that enough? They said, yes. Although today I'm healthy, well-nourished, and unafflicted, life is momentary and deceptive. The body is like an object on loan for a minute. Yes, we are very lucky that we have achieved this. Remember, Shantideva referred to our achieving this human rebirth as coincidence. It's like we stumble onto this. In reality, it's like there's no way. But that's possible, isn't it? Of course, I'm not going to say it, but we know in the recent past, unimaginable things happened. Nobody expected somebody to become the world leader, and there. So Shantideva was saying that our achieving this human rebirth is really a coincidence. Judging from our own action, it cannot be. But anyway, we achieved. So, at the moment, yes, we are healthy. We are well nourished. And we are unafflicted. So here, unafflicted is we have no harm. We have no, obstacles. We are not in pain. We are not sick. But that is not a reason that we will live long. Good health is not a good reason to say that I will live long. We hear stories of people who are healthy today and then next day is gone. Well nourished. We have all the resources. We have enough food, we have clothing, we have medicines when we are unwell. We have all these facilities. But that is not a reason that we will live long. Then we have no, at the moment, we have no harms or hindrances. That's also not a good reason. Today everything is okay, but we don't know what tomorrow would look like. I think 2 days ago, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, Larry King, the legendary news interviewer, isn't he? He's gone now. But at least he lived to 87 years. We don't know. We cannot even guarantee that we will be alive tomorrow. Anything can happen tonight. So he says the life is momentary and deceptive. As we are talking, we are moving towards our end. So it is here you see the Minnehaha waterfall. When you look at that, it never stops. It incessantly moves. So our life is like that. Every ticking of a second, we are closing towards the end. And it's very deceptive because we think that we are healthy, we have all the resources, so I should be okay. It is not. So it says that the body is like an object on loan for a minute. Here, I don't know, because you have these contracts, maybe you cannot ask any time. But normally when you borrow something from another person, that other person can demand it back anytime. You have no freedom. Likewise, the death can call us anytime, any minute. So we cannot take comfort that, oh, I have this body which is free from all the unfavorable circumstances and which is endowed with these 10 endowments. We cannot take comfort in that. We must do something about it. So that's why the reflection on the death and dying is so important. So when we really reflect and contemplate it, how prone we are to being the victim of death, how easily we can die, how uncertain our time of death is, then we will really put effort in our practice. So I think you already know this, but I will still just remind that when we do meditation on death, it is to engender this fear. This fear is not that, oh, I'm going to die. That's not the fear that trying to engender. The fear is that, oh, if I die, I didn't do any virtue. I won't have the opportunity to do virtue. That kind of fear. Your fear is that, oh, if I die, I have no time to practice. So I better use this time, whatever time I have, in doing virtue. in doing practice, in Dharma practice. So we need to be able to engender that kind of fear. The general fear, if I die, I will lose this and this, I have to leave my loved ones, these it won't help, it won't solve anything. So even if you, even that fear arises, there's nothing you can do about it. But when you have that kind of fear that, oh, if I die, I won't have opportunity to practice Dhamma, that kind of fear, there is a remedy. So the remedy is, I better do now. I better practice now while I have the time. So that kind of counters that fear. So we need to be able to engender or generate that kind of fear, which will then propel us to spend as much of our time on practicing Dharma. So in order to do that, we need conscientiousness, because we want to act according to the Bodhisattva vows. We want to accord with the Bodhisattva practice. Tāgi choban dendeni miyi lui jang to menjur, mi lui topar manjur na tikba bashi gyawa mes. So this is additional argument, refuting the argument. So even this life, of course, the death is imminent, we will die. But even if I die, next time when I achieve human rebirth, I may obtain human rebirth, successive human rebirth. So during that time, I can put effort. It says that. No, that's very difficult. It says, and giving a reason why it is difficult. And with behavior such as this, I shall not obtain a human body again. And if this human form is not attained, they will be solely evil and no virtue. So it says that it is very difficult. It is very hard to guarantee another human rebirth. Human rebirth, or optimum human rebirth, requires causes and conditions which are concordant to the result. The causes must correspond to the results. So what we are doing does not really correspond to the result that we desire. Tāgi chūpa tendeni mī lūjang tōmen jūrus. With the behavior such as I shall not obtain even a human body. Human body. Not all human bodies are precious human rebirth. Or let me repress this. That means which is free from 8 unfavorable conditions. And then is not definitely not endowed with 10 endowments. There are 7 billion people, but how many are there who are practicing Buddha Dharma? Compared with the world population, it's a handful of people who met Buddha Dharma. Remember at Taylor Street at Anthony's house? We have Dharma classes there, but the surrounding neighbor, unaware of it. They have no interest. The karma is not there. So even if you are staying next to a center where Dharma classes are taught every day or every week, but only those who have the merits will find this and will show interest. So it is very difficult. And then from our own action, we know 24 hours, being honest with ourselves, how many hours we spend on Dharma practice. Very little, isn't it? First of all, you have other things. You have jobs. You have work to attend to. So working hour is minimum 8 hours, isn't it? And then including the travel, it will be like 10 hours gone. And then we have to watch TV, we have to rest. And sometimes even these commitments, the prayer commitments, we kind of rush through. And then it is very, very difficult to generate virtuous mind. Love, compassion, the wisdom, realizing emptiness, renunciation, whatnot. Even if we try to put effort, it is so hard. But when it comes to negativity, attachment, anger, hatred, jealousy, greed, instantly, you don't need to put effort. It arises naturally, effortlessly. So when we think all this, when we analyze all this, it is very true that if we die, the next destination is actually down there. And with the behavior such as this, I shall not obtain a human body again, and if this human form is not attained, they will be solely evil and no wise, no virtue. So once we are born in lower realms, there's no opportunity to practice Dharma. That's why these 8, when we talk about the leisures, 8 leisures, the non-human existence, like the hell realm and all this. So when there's so much pain, so much intense suffering, when we are having an intense, the terrible headache, if you are asked to do meditation, can you do that? No, we cannot. When we are so hungry and thirsty, will you be able to practice? Do some Dharma practice? No. Of course, the hell being and preta, all this we cannot see. But look at the animals that we can see. Will they be able to practice anything? Do you see them doing any Dharma practice? No. They cannot even understand a simple instruction. Of course, there are clever ones, but most of them cannot even understand instructions. Their main goal is to survive, to search for food, and then look for shelter. That's their main goal. Once that achieved, that's that. If you try to teach your pet to meditate, they won't understand. So that's what it's saying, that once we are down there, it is really hard. So we will be doing what we are doing all the time is actually negative ones, wise or evil. but no virtue. Of course, sometimes we see exceptional cases where animals are kind, show kindness. That's exceptional. But most generally, there's no way. So we cannot leave our hope for the future rebirths. Kewa tajang maje las, milu tukpa bashi kewa me. Kanzi keje keden ya kewa tagi maje na, ngensun tonye kui mongba teze tagi chi char yu. This actually I've already covered. So if when I have the chance to live a wholesome life, my actions are not wholesome, then what shall I be able to do when confused by the misery of the lower realms? So when we have the opportunity here, when we are free from intense pain and suffering, we are not able to engage in virtuous actions. So if we are unable to do at that kind of favorable condition, so when our conditions are unfavorable, what more can I do? So that's what I was saying, my actions are not wholesome. Then what shall I be able to do when confused by the misery of the lower realms? Kewa taya maje la tikwa taya nyersana, kewa chawa gyarayani tendru taya tuemen yorus. So we may say that, oh, maybe I can escape after spending some period of time in lower realms, and then I can come back to be human again, and then I can do it. He says no. And if I commit no wholesome deeds there, but readily amass much evil, then for 100 million eons I shall not even hear the word, a happy life. So here I have this picture. If you have difficulty, all the time reminding of hell realms and all this, so think about this. In Buddhism, we talk about cold hell. So here in Minnesota, we know how cold it is. The temperature, we know to what degree the temperature can drop down to. And in such conditions, there are people who have no homes, who have no proper shelter. So they go through such an intense pain and suffering. So that is like a state of being in a hell realm. So if I commit no wholesome deeds there, because once we are in that kind of existence, it is unfavorable condition. Because of that, we won't be able to do any virtue, but readily amass much evil. So because of this, then for 100 million eons, I shall not even hear the word. The dendro is the higher realm. Not to mention of being born in the higher realms, but we wouldn't even hear about it. Okay, I think we will stop here and then we will continue. We will pick up from next session. Okay, thank you very much, and let's dedicate our merits. Tagi jinyi sabbe gyawa de tendan rowa kunla kangpen dan kebara chizun losan tawa yi tenbe nyingbu ringdo seje sho jambe bawe chedara kemba dan kundu sambu tenyang tejin do teda kungi jesu talobji gyawa deda tamje rabdo ngo tuzun shekbe gyawa tamje ngowa kangla chodo ngabwa Tagi gewe zawa dikun jang sangbo chuchi rabdu ngowar gis. Okay, thank you